Alright, so here is a tutorial on how to do a photo or video render in Nvidia Omniverse if you're a architecture student who wants to have a nice render of a project that they worked on, or you're a mechanical engineering student who wants a nice video or picture render of a capstone project that they worked on. This is one of the best use cases for Omniverse because it has a nice render engine that's based off of Nvidia's real-time ray tracing. So the first step is to transfer the file you're going to want to do a render of to the virtual machine. So if you're not using a virtual machine, you can skip this part and go to the timestamp listed. So if we go to the virtual machine here, this is the object that I want to do a render of. I already brought it over to the downloads folder on the virtual machine. There are a couple ways to transfer files from your local computer to the virtual machine. Some of them, in my experience, have caused the connection to crash, unfortunately, so you're welcome to try them. But if they don't work, you can just use Google Drive to upload and download files. That works. But you can use the File Explorer on the virtual machine to just access your local computer and copy and paste the path name. And then you can just Control-C, Control-V onto the like a folder on the virtual machine, and that will upload the file. Another option is to copy it directly from your actual File Explorer on your local computer and then open the virtual machine and paste that. Again, if those don't work, you can use Google Drive, but they are an easier solution if you can. So after that, we're going to open an Omniverse project and place the file in. So you're going to open the Omniverse launcher and click on Create and click Launch. And this is the app that you're going to start out with. Just a default sample scene you may be familiar with if you're in 3D software. You can navigate around using WASD and hold right click to move your camera. You can hold Shift to go faster, Control to go slower. And you can scroll, while you're holding right click, you can scroll forward to go faster and scroll backwards to go slower. So you're going to navigate to the file that you have in the file browser here. I have it already open. And then you're just going to drag it into the project and wait for it to import. It might take a minute. Okay, so the file is done importing. You're probably going to want to resize it to some degree because it might not be the right place or scale. So you can press E, or you can press R to open the scaling gizmo with the circles, and you can click on the middle circle and drag upwards to make it bigger. I'm going to zoom all the way out. And then I'm going to click W to switch to Move Tool, and I'm going to click this green plane here to move it along the ground, and I'm going to move it back towards the origin so it's easier to find. And I'm going to go back into it. By the way, this is a model of a place called the Tributary, created by architecture student Brian Roberts. It's a beautiful model, so I have to give credit. Thank you for letting me use this for demonstration purposes. I'm going to take this plane and I'm going to make it much bigger just to fit the size of the model a little better with R and drag to scale up. And now one of the things that's nice about Omniverse is it has a lot of assets and materials built in. So if you want to do set dressing or put your model next to other things for scale, you can take any of these free assets and just drag them in. They're all high quality, they look good. They also have materials, so if you have a white model like this and you want to texture something specific, you can just drag it on. So I drag this bamboo material on, for example, but we're going to leave it as a white model. For now, I'm going to press Ctrl-Z to undo. And then lastly, there are these environments, which are very helpful for getting nice renders. You can choose any one you want, and it will reflect the color onto the model. I'm going to choose the cumulus light because it's just a nice daytime scene and it also works with a feature called Sun Study, which we will get into later. So you can already see there's like some nice shadows and lighting in here. So yeah, that is placing it in. Now to mess with the camera, you can click on this rightward arrow here. If you want specific camera settings, there's a lot of powerful stuff here that mimics real world cameras. You can change, the focus length of it, the zoom, aperture, ISO. You can turn on auto exposure. I'm going to leave it at 100 though, just for simplicity. And then at the top left here, you can choose different lighting modes. So RTX real time is the fastest and worst, even though it still looks great. And then we have interactive path tracing, which is more accurate but still somewhat real time. And then the most accurate is iRay, which is very intensive and takes a while to generate frames. And so you really want to have a powerful computer to use something like that, like a RTX 4090 or something. These virtual machines even have less power than a 4090. Okay, so this is taking too long, so we're actually not going to use it. And let's say we want to add a nice little grass texture onto the floor, just to give it a little more color. That looks good. So now if we want to create a photo, we can go into Window, Rendering, and Movie Capture. And now we have a lot of settings here. We're going to leave it all as is. You're welcome to change stuff if you want. I'm going to change the resolution as from 1080p to 4K, so 3840 by 2160. And we can choose the render mode. We're going to keep it on real time just to make it go faster. Still looks good, but if you want to spend more time on a render, the other ones are more high fidelity. We're going to choose where we want it to go. I'm just going to put it in the downloads folder. Okay, and we're going to name it to building capture. And to capture a frame, you just click capture current frame. It will render out. It looks like it's already done, so let's preview it. So that looks pretty good, but if we want to get a little more in depth, we can do a sun study, which will let you do a time lapse of a space throughout a day in a real time and place, or it'll mimic to be accurate to a real time on the globe. So we can go to Window, Sun Study, and we can drag this slider all the way to the left, and we can actually see the sun move throughout the day. And the shadows will move. So yeah, and if we want to put this in a real place, we can put set location. I'll set it to Atlanta. You can change north orientation to rotate the sun to be accurate to how your model is positioned. And this from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. so we get it fully dark. That looks pretty good. So now if we want to export this as a video, instead of choosing sequence at the top movie type, we choose sun study. And now it shows this time lapse. You can change the frame rate. I'm going to set it to 5 seconds, so it's a pretty fast time lapse, just so that it goes by faster. Because if we do the math, that's 5 times 24 frames. Now, to export this as a video, we just do capture sequence and wait for that to load out. And this is going a lot faster than interactive path tracing or the other one, because those would have to do 64 or more subframes per frame in order to get accurate bounce lighting, whereas this takes a lot more shortcuts. Okay, so now that the render's done, we can go into the destination folder and see that we have a folder of frames. Omniverse can export as a MP4 if you choose this option in the output. But I've found that it doesn't actually compile the frames together that well, and there can be lagging. So it's best to use the frames that it gives you and compile them in a video editor anyway, just so it's smooth. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. But you can, of course, still use the video option if you want. So if you're using a virtual machine, you're going to have to get this folder of pictures back onto your computer, whichever way you want, which I mentioned earlier. I'm going to do that. Alright, so here we finally have the folder of our captured frames. It might take a while to download them from the VM. I'm going to open DaVinci Resolve and use that to compile the frames. You're welcome to use any video editor you want, but this one's my favorite. It's really good and it's free. So all we're going to do is take our folder of images and drag them into this window here in this first tab, and then we're going to put that in the media pool, and then we're just going to drag that into this timeline here. And we should double check that our project is in the right frame rate because it was rendered in 24 frames per second. So if we go to File, Project Settings, the timer resolution we can bump up to 4K because that's what it was rendered in, and the playback frame rate is 24, which is correct. So we'll click Save. And then you can add other edits to this if you want, like adding text to it with the Effects tab. But if you don't want to do that, you just click on the rocket ship and you can export it. So I'll name this building render. Choose the location to be videos. And if all the settings look good, you just click add to render queue. Render all. Now you have a really nice sun study render of a model of a building or an object for architecture or mechanical engineering or anything else you want. Thanks for watching.